Yeah, hi guys, very good evening. Welcome back in this array series. We have now, I think, reached to a stage where we can go and explore the arrays, how actually practically we can use the arrays because I've covered all the important things with you. I've covered how you can make the combinations. True and false, how you can multiply or add the arrays in order to make the relevant combinations and to execute the results. Then also in the last lecture you found the use of the offset function where we learned how we can use the arrays offset as an array using the height and the width parameters. Right now I know that all of us are very eager to actually see the real use of this offset and the row, the combination which we used, and to now show you actually the real use. I have a an exercise here, and in this exercise as you can see I have got here some string, some the text entry is written there, and it has some name, and there's no space basically between that. And now what we like to do is I like to go and ask you a one question. Maybe you can pause the video and you guys can go and practice. You can check, I mean, if you can do this without using any VBA program or any other Excel formula. If you think that you're pretty much efficient guy in Excel, you know advanced Excel very well, you know the formulas very well, so why don't you just go ahead and give it a try, and then you can come back and see that what we are going to do in this. Now basically the thing is, in this particular example, if you look at the formula, this is the formula I'm going to teach you. Pretty long formula using so many things here, right? Very interesting formula as well. But what it does is, as you can see, how to count the specific character in a string using the mid and the offset technique. This is what we are going to use. So mid function and the offset functions we are going to use. But the idea is to count the number of the characters. The number of the characters in the sense that any specific character you can pick. For example, in this particular example, what we are doing is we are counting how many times the A alphabet is coming. You can see here I have used a formula equals to A. So it is counting the number of times the occurrence of a character in this string Ajay Parmar. And you can see, if you start counting Ajay, if you start counting A here, this is the first A, this is the second A, and this is the third, and then this is the fourth one, right? And this is what exactly you're getting here. The answer is 4. Similarly, on dragging this formula, if you see here the A is coming only one time, and here the A is coming 2 times. Here there's no A in this particular example. If you look at this here we should get the answer, but I'm not sure why we are not getting the answer. Perhaps it's because of some the other problem, and you can see basically there is some reference issue which I will rectify it. This shouldn't be this. So what I can do is, before I go further, I like to go and freeze this F4, and because I know I have developed this formula, I'm going to explain this to you. But first of all, let's go and correct the question, the answer solution, and you can see here now everything is all done, right? So if you look at this, it's basically picking up the A1. Previously it was, the reference was changing because I forgot to freeze it. So how you can basically go and do all these things, now if you want to, let's say, change this to A to something else, maybe you want to check that, so how many times the Y character is coming, you can simply go and change this to Y. And yeah, so if you're changing here Y, then you must go and change this Y here as well. And now I press Ctrl Shift Enter, and now you can see that if I go and drag this, you will be able to find out the number of the times the alphabet Y is coming in the string. Okay, for example, if you look at here, in this the Y is coming only once. In this I think there is no Y. Here we have this Y coming, and if I show you another, if I go and write here one more Y and I press enter, you can see the output is coming here as 2. Okay, so these sort of things you can do with the arrays. Okay, of course you can make a VBA program also, but for that you have to go to my the VBA series where we talked about the arrays and the functions. But what if you do not know the VBA, and if you know the Excel arrays, then you can certainly go and do all these things. So the thing is, now what we are supposed to do is, I'm going to do this step by step, and I'm going to write all the steps over here so that you can go and practice. You can download this file. Now before we go and write the arrays, Okay, the first thing which we like to do is we like to basically, as I always say, you like to think this, the entire logic. You have to develop that logic in your mind, and that logic generally happens in obviously when you look at the question, then you see that what formulas you can go and use it. For example, if I have to count some specific text in this string, then perhaps I can go and think of using the count function, countif function, count a, all that stuff. But the point is, when you go and work with the arrays, your focus is not only, it should be only on some specific function like this. This is array, and the approach is quite different in the arrays works on the true and the false combinations. So you have to basically go and look at the the permutation combinations, the different approaches which can generate you true and the false, and with the help of that true and false you can go and count the occurrence of any character. Okay, now if I pick up this the specific the first cell, which is Ajay Parmar, then in this case let me just go and copy this and let me go and paste it somewhere here, maybe here. Okay, now the first thing which you guys are supposed to do is you guys are supposed to split this. You guys are supposed to split each of the text which is a part of the string Ajay Parmar, and when you go and split this, then you can simply go and put the logic that if that the text, individual text, is equals to A or not, we are going to count here the alphabet A. What I'm trying to say is that you should know the art, you should know the technique, that how you can go and split this in this way. For example, A, J, A, and then Y, and then P, and then so on, P N, and then R, right? So once you have split this, the idea is very simple. We simply go and say that if RU equals to A, so we're going to say that in this way, RU equals to A, right? If this is going to be equals to A, then you will find the answer as true. Otherwise, you will go and find the answer as false, right? So once you have able to know the true and the false, then the same array is going to be multiplied with the same result. So once again you will go and create the same array, and here let me just go and suppose this is the another array, the result of the same array, but you have written it again. Then you go and multiply them. So once you multiply them, guys, what happens, I told you, when you go and multiply the true with the true, the answer is going to come as 1, and when you go and multiply false and false, it is going to be 0, and if you multiply true with the false again, then that is also going to be 0, right? So the idea is, wherever you have the 1 and the 1 and the 1, that means basically there you have this array giving you the answer as A, and ultimately then you will simply go and use the sum function, and you're going to sum them, and the occurrence of the A is going to be evaluated. You can check that. This is so simple, right? Now the first question is, so let's go and write down the steps. The first step I want to do here is that maybe I can go and simply keep this as it is. So let's go and move this over here. So the first step which I want to do is, I'm going to basically, the step number 1, I'm going to write it. Now why I'm writing this, so that you can go and practice on this, right? So you need to basically split the string, right? So this is the first step I like to do. I want to split each of the character over here. Now the point is, if you guys remember that how we can go and split it. Now if somebody, if let's say, let's start this from the very basic. Now if I have here the string, and if I have to split this, then maybe I can go and use the mid function, right? So mid function, what it does, you say that go in the text, this text, and then start number has to be 1, and the number of character I want to return, it is going to be 1, right? So in this way you will be able to separate this A from the entire string. Same way you go and use the another mid, though I had explained this in the previous lecture also, but it's always good to revise these things, because in the first attempt you may not be able to understand the things properly. So the more you see the the stuff again and again, the better you will be the advanced Excel user. So trust me on this part, guys, that it's not one time thing. You really have to go and do a lot of practice on that, right? So you go and use this mid G, again go in the G12, and this time the start number will be be 2, and the number of characters which I'm going to return from this is obviously 1. So this way, your start position keep on changing, right? Now the same concept we have to implement in the array. Now I told you this thing before also. If I remove the equals to sign from this formula, right, now you need to develop a formula array in such a way that this start number, which is 1 here, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4, this should be developed, right? So in order to develop that, the first thing which we like to do is we like to go and use the offset function with the help of the row function, if you guys remember that. So the first thing which I'm going to do here is that I simply go and use the offset, and then we go and pick any of the cell. Maybe I go and pick the A1 cell, and I told you that it always has to be A1. It cannot be A2, because if you are looking for a position, if you're looking for an array which starts with 1 2 3 4 and so on, you must write here the A1, because the row of A1 is always going to be 1. I mean, any cell will work for us as long as it is going to be on the first row, B1 C1 D1, right? So you can do that. So you go and say here offset A1, and go and say here the comma 0, and finally the height. So now we need how many numbers, how many starting numbers I need. It depends upon the length of this text, because if I have here, let's say 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, if I have here 10 characters, then that means I need 10 positions. I need 10 starting positions, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, so that every element, every text, every individual text of this entire string can be separated, and that is going to come from the height. So I can go and write here 10 also, but in order to make the formula dynamic, I, instead of writing here 10, because if you go and write, if you want to drag this formula down and you want to work on these strings, then you have to think of a different approach. You have to think of a dynamic approach. You can't simply go and write here the 10, so that's why we go and say that calculate the length of the G12, which is obviously going to come as the 10. Okay, and in the other cells it will vary, and then the width is always going to be 1. Now if you go and press Ctrl Shift Enter, and if you like to see this output using the F9, we will be able to see 0 0 0 0 10 times, isn't it? So now once we have got all these 0 zeros, the idea is simply to go and you calculate the row of each of these numbers, because ultimately if you see that these zeros are coming from where, if I go and press F2 and I show you here, you can see here this is basically I have hidden that cell. So maybe to explain you, I can do one thing. I can change the reference, and we're gonna make it, let's say R1, right? So now once I'm done with this, you have here this empty cell, and then this is empty cell, this is empty cell. So all these zeros, all these cells, from R1 and taking the height as 10, this is going to be including these 10 rows. Now all these cells, if you go and start calculating the row of these cells, what you will do, you will simply go and say that calculate the row of R1. This is how we go and use it. So row of R1 is always going to be 1, and same way when you go and drag this, you will be able to, you will find out the row numbers, right? And this is what we basically, the technique we are going to use in the arrays, right? So I'm repeating all this thing because right now we are doing some live exercise. So once you have done the thing here, what you need to do, just go and pick up, calculate the row of each of this, the string, each of this, the element, the value which is coming from this offset function, which is 0 0 0, and the moment I press Ctrl Shift Enter and I go and show you the F9 output, you can see that finally we have been able to get the 1 2 3 4 5 6 8 9 10. Now these are going to act as the starting position. Okay, so in this first cell, what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to write here the output. I just go and I have copied that, and I'm just going to show you like this. Okay, so that you can practice this. So now once we are done with this, what I do is because I'm explaining this step by step, so I copy the same formula, and in the next here in the step 2, I'm going to simply go and say Control V, Control Shift Enter. Now what is the next step you like to do? Now the next step is very simple. Basically in the next step, now what you do is you simply go and split. Now you need to split the strings. So here you need to split the strings. So this basically comes here as step 2, but here to split the strings, let us create the indexes. Let us create the start position. Okay, let us create the start numbers going to be used in the mid function. Okay, So to split the string, let us go and create the start numbers, and we have already created this. These are all the start numbers using the offset and the row function. Now the second thing is how we can go and split this. Now this is very easy. We did this last time also. So now in this entire the result of this function row and offset is 1 2 3 4 5 6. So please remember that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to use the mid function here, and in the mid function, first of all, you go and choose the text, which is this text, and then comma the start number. Now the start number is going to come from this row and the offset function, and in this, remember, the start number is not just 1. The start number is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. And how the array works, first the 1 will be picked up in the start number, and then 2, and then 3. So all the outputs, there will be 10 different output which we will get from this. Okay, so once I have the start number, press the comma, and how many characters do you need? So since we have to split each of the value here, so we need just one cell in return, so I go and use the comma 1. So let me press Ctrl Shift Enter, and now you can see that finally I have got the result. This is very interesting. Let's go and press F9, and then I go and copy this, Ctrl C, I press escape. Before I press escape, you can see the result. So finally we have been able to split all these different text numbers from here. Okay, so let me go and simply say Ctrl V. So this is the output you can see here. So finally we have got this output, right? So now what is the next thing, guys? Now the next thing is once you have split all these the values, basically you have to go and check where is the alphabet A. Now in order to check this, so now the step 3, what is the step 3? The step 3 is very simple. Now we will go, once we have split, now we will go to each of this the split value, and check if it is equals to your alphabet A. This is what we are going to do it. Okay, so now how we can do this? It's very simple. I again go and copy this, and I paste the formula here. So this is the formula, Control Shift Enter. Now what you need to do is, if you remember that I told you in the arrays you can go and do the comparisons also, equals to, greater than, and less than. Now this entire thing, this entire function returns you A, J, A, Y, B, A, R, M and all that stuff, right? So you simply say that if all those values, we are going to check one by one, so are they equals to A, for example, this is what you're going to write here, and close this, open parenthesis, close parenthesis. So what will happen, this entire the string which we have separated, we are going to cross check this one by one for every value here, and we will have finally the result in the true and the false. Okay, so again if I show you this using the F9, finally you have been able to get the true, false, and this string. So this string is what? This string obviously means that wherever you have the A, there you are going to see the true, and wherever you don't find the A, you will go and see the the string, the different string, the false basically. Now if you guys remember that I told you that once we have created this string, now in order to calculate this, because wherever you have a true, basically that is where we have the alphabet A coming. So if I can count this true, and this true, and this true, that means I will be able to calculate how many times the alphabet A is coming. So now in the step number 4, what you're going to do, you simply going to multiply the same, we will go now, say that multiply the same array 2 times, okay, so that true can be converted into ones and false is going to be your 0, right? This is what we needed. So in order to do that, now I have to go and simply copy this entire thing. I copy this entire string, and here in the next cell I simply say Control V, Control Shift Enter. Now I'm going to simply multiply this. So same thing you're going to multiply. This is very interesting. I'm going to multiply this. Now you see that, guys. So once we already know the result of this entire function, the array function, and this is true, false, true, false. Now this also returns the same thing, obviously. So eventually what you will get is, you will get here true false, true false, true false, false, the one array and again the same array will be repeated with the same result. So the true and the true will be multiplied with each other, and that is going to make it 1, and wherever we have false, that is going to be 0. So finally, when I say control shift enter, then you find here not the true, but you find here the 1 and the 0, and this is basically the overall idea. Now why we have converted this true into 1? So that I can simply go and sum this. Now this is what exactly we needed, because this is 1, 1 and 1 and 1. These are all those positions where you have the alphabet A coming. So the final thing now you need to do is, I again go and copy this, and in the last now the step here, I simply go and say that I want to sum all these numbers. So the 0 obviously will not change my answer. The idea is to sum the values where we have the 1, and the moment I press Ctrl Shift Enter, you find here the answer coming as 4, right? So this is basically the step number 5, and in the step number 5 what you're doing, you're simply just summing up the ones and using the sum function, because when we multiplied two arrays, the true and true pair returned 1, and false and false returned 0. This is the idea. Okay, so this is how you can build this function, right? So I think now you know the actually the power of these arrays. You know how basically you can go and use these arrays, and obviously now the same function I have used here, you can see here. Okay, the same function I have used here, no changes. But remember one thing, if I have to drag this formula, I have to make sure that this A1, which we have used here as R1, as I said, that you can use any of the top cell as long as it returns the 1, we are okay with that. Please go make sure that that should be freezed. So here A1 and here A1 has to be freezed, and in our case here, you should go and freeze this R1 and the R1. The reason is because if you do not freeze it, and when you go and drag this R1 will change to 2. So eventually your mid function, instead of returning 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, it starts returning 2 3 4 5 6, and we do not need that, because we want that the first time when the mid function works, we should start with the first position, because we need all the values to be split. Okay, we need all the values, and that is the reason if you look at this entire formula, I have frozen this A1 part. Rest you don't have to freeze. As far as D4 is concerned, you have to make this dynamic. When you go and drag this down, D4 has to be D5, right? And same way this is also the D4 which we are using in the mid. So rest nothing has to be freezed, and this is how you can go and make this super duper array formula, and you can just go and count any of the specific character. Well, if you look at this overall formula, you may get scared, you may get array phobia, but I think after this lecture, since we have done everything step by step, you are not going to face that sort of challenge. You will find it much easier than what you were actually thinking before, before we started working on this formula. So with a little bit of practice, with a little bit of patience, and one thing in the mind that yes, I will have to be an expert in this arrays, I think you can definitely make a huge difference in your Excel skills. Alright guys, so thank you so much, and I'm gonna see you now in the next exercise, and we're gonna take a more deep dive into the arrays, and we're gonna definitely be a master in the arrays. Thank you so much. Bye bye.